Hello everyone, how are you doing, my dear students? I hope you all are keeping great. Welcome to the lecture 2 of body fluids and circulation. So, today we will be discussing certain concepts from which the questions have come in previous year NEET question papers as well as AIMS question papers. So, let's get started without wasting much time. Lecture 2 of body fluids and circulation. So, what we will be studying in present class? So, in present class, in today's class, we will be studying about RH blood group, under which we will be also studying a special case called as erythroblastosis fetalis, and then we will be studying about lymph, different types of circulatory pathways, under which we will be studying open circulatory system, closed circulatory system, different chambers of heart in different individual, different types of circulation, that is single circulation, incomplete double circulation and double circulation. So this all will be studying in today's class. And as you all know, at the end, we will be discussing lot of questions. And these questions are as usual. It will be from either NEET PYQs or from AIMS PYQs. Okay. So let's get started with RH grouping. So in the previous class, we have studied about ABO blood grouping. You have understood who are the donors, who should be the donors, for which type of recipients, right? And you know that antigens are present on the surface, antigens are present on the surface of RBC, and antibodies would be present in the plasma, right? So that knowledge is very important because there is another blood group, that is RH grouping, is also very similar, but the antigen name is slightly different, and that is nothing but RH. But why is this RH grouping, or what does this RH stands for? So there is a factor or antigen called as RH antigen, which is present definitely in we humans, right? But the name RH because this particular factor is also present in the monkeys called as rhesus monkey. Okay. So RH actually stands for what? Rhesus monkey. Okay, RH means rhesus actually. Okay, so this RH antigen is present on surface of RBCs around 80% of the population. So 80% of the population have got RH blood group, or I can say they have got this RH antigen, which is very similar, which is the one that is also found in the rhesus monkeys RBCs. So that is present in 80% of the population of humans. So I guess by this we can say for sure that we have evolved from monkeys, right? It's not like simply they told that, monkeys to man. No, there is a proof, and one of the proof may be this one. Okay, so I hope you have understood what exactly RH stands for. That is rhesus. Okay, and this is present around 80% of the population of humans. Human population, right? Now, so individuals who have got RH antigen on the surface of their RBCs are called as RH positive, right? So they have got this RH factor or RH antigen on their surface of RBCs. Okay, so when there is an antigen on surface of RBC, definitely they are called as positive. For example, why do we say B, this individual, this group is, he is having B blood group? Why do we say that? Because he has got B antigen on the surface of RBC. And if the individual is having, if that B individual, B group, blood containing individual, if he is having RH antigen on the surface, then he is called as B positive. So combination of RH grouping and ABO grouping we are using to name the blood group. So I am O positive. So I just have RH antigen on the surface of my RBC. If you are B positive, you should be B positive, by the way. It's the NEET exam preparation time and you should be B positive, right? But however, if we are talking about the B blood group, if you're B positive, it means you have got B antigen as well as RH antigen or RH factor on your surface of RBC. But what about the antibodies? Now, individuals who don't have this RH factor or RH antigen on their surface of RBC, then what they will have? They will have anti-RH, that is antibody against RH antigen. So, is it possible for individual who have got RH negative, can he take blood group from RH positive individual? So if you are belonging to, let's say, B negative, and can you take blood from B positive individual? No. Why no? Because you know that it's always the antibodies. Now, he is having in his surface of the RBC, there is no antigen, right? This is RBC. But in his in his plasma, there is going to be antibody against RH, right? There is going to be B antigen, however, but in the plasma, there is going to be antibody against RH antigen. So now this antibody will be causing agglutination, or they will be attacking the antigen that is present on the surface of this individual's RBC. Okay, so there is going to be agglutination. There is going to be this individual will be suffering if he takes, so B negative individual, he cannot take blood from the B positive because his antibody, that is antibody against RH antigen, will be attacking this antigen. Okay. Now, can this B positive individual take blood from B negative? Can he take blood from this B negative individual? It is still possible because there is no antibody against RH here in his blood, right? So there is possibility there is chance of taking, but it can't be other way around. Okay, so that is about the RH grouping. So anti-RH, this is the antibody that will be present in the plasma of the one who do not have got RH factor on the surface of the RBC. Okay, so that is important to note. Now, there is a special case of RH incompatibility. So you know when there is going to be incompatibility of RH, that is when the individual who is having RH negative, so when he wants blood, he cannot take blood from the RH positive individual because his antibodies will be start attacking the antigen that is present on the RH positive blood group, right? So you know this. Now, there is a special incompatibility case. So this happens when the mother is having RH negative blood group and the fetus is having RH positive blood group. Now, how come fetus is having RH positive blood group? So how it's possible? Simple. That is, if this mother or if this lady, if she would have married a man with the RH positive, okay, then the fetus will also have RH positive, right? So now this mother's husband, now he would be having positive, father would be having positive blood group. That is why the fetus is having RH positive. Students, I'm writing all of these things because in NEET exam, you can expect, even the question related to father. Okay, so if baby is having, however, it comes to the, it comes under different chapter, but still you should know that if fetus is getting Rh positive blood group, then this fetus father, that is this mother's husband, right? So he should be having Rh positive, then only the fetus is getting Rh positive. Okay, fine. So let's understand about the special case of Rh incompatibility. So mother is Rh negative, fetus is Rh positive. So what happens cause of this? So first baby is going to be normal, as during pregnancy there is no mixing of blood group due to separation of placenta. So pregnancy will go normal, right? And there is no issue at all because there is no mixing of blood group between mothers and fetus. But during the delivery of this first baby, there are chances of mixing of the blood, host blood, mother's and fetus blood. So during delivery, there are chance of mixing of this blood, right? So Rh negative mother will start making antibody against Rh antigen. Very important to note. So this mother will start producing antibodies against this Rh antigen of the fetus. That is when? That is during the delivery, not during pregnancy. During delivery, the issue comes. Okay. So antibodies will be crossing the placenta in subsequent pregnancies. So first baby is actually safe. Very important to note. First baby is safe. In this special case of Rh incompatibility, first baby is safe. Why? Because when the mother will start producing antibodies, that is during delivery, okay, against Rh antigen. So then delivery is done. So now she has got antibodies against this Rh antigen, which got produced during the delivery, right? Now, in the next pregnancy or in the upcoming subsequent pregnancies, what will happen? If the fetus is once again having Rh positive blood group, then we are able to see these antibodies that this mother has produced during the delivery. Now that antibodies will be crossing the placenta, and what it will do? It will be simply damaging this antibodies will be damaging. It will be trying to destroy the antigen, Rh antigen that is present on baby's RBC. Okay. Now this baby's RBCs have got Rh antigen. Now this has been attacked by whom? Anti-Rh, that is antibody against Rh, which is of mother. Now this will be attacking this, Rh antigen that is present on baby's RBC. So cause of this, now the RBCs will be destroyed, right? So cause of this, the baby will be suffering from severe anemia and jaundice. Okay, and this is called as erythroblastosis fetalis. So this condition of the RBCs of the fetus getting destroyed, and the baby will be start showing the symptom like jaundice and anemia, and this is called as erythroblastosis fetalis. I hope you have understood. What is very important to note is first baby is safe. Always it is the second and the subsequent baby will be in trouble. Okay, so this is in the next and subsequent means upcoming babies. Okay, that too, when that baby will be in trouble, if she is or if baby is Rh positive. If not, that baby is safe. Okay, but how this particular problem can be overcome? How exactly we can overcome this particular issue? So what should be done is how it can be prevented. How this erythroblastosis fetalis can be prevented is by administrating the mother with anti-RH antibody soon after first delivery. So, soon after the first baby is born, the mother should be injected with the anti-RH antibody. There comes a composition called as RhoGAM. Okay, RhoGAM, which is actually having anti-RH antibody. That is nothing but it will be simply destroying the RH antibody against RH. So that will be destroyed. Antibody against RH antigen. So that will be destroyed with the help of RhoGAM because it is anti to the RH antibody, not RH antigen. So it is anti, or it is against, or it will be destroying the antibodies that has got produced by the mother during the delivery. So soon after the delivery, this should be administered. Okay. So that is how the erythroblastosis fetalis can be prevented from the in the next upcoming or subsequent or the next baby. So that is about RH incompatibility. Next concept is coagulation of the blood. Now, what is first of all coagulation? So the mechanism of coagulation we can see mainly to prevent the excess loss of blood that will be happening during the injury. Okay, so why the coagulation of the blood will be done? Why coagulation? To stop excess loss of blood from the body during the injury. Okay, now the next thing that we have to know is what is coagulum or clot. What is coagulum or clot? It's nothing but it will be what happens is when you happen to get a wound or any injury or any trauma, there is going to be the dark reddish scum that would be produced in the place of injury, and that is being made up of network of fibrins and damaged or dead formed elements. What are formed elements, by the way? Cells. It can be RBC, WBCs, even platelets, right? So the clot or coagulum is nothing but the network of fibrins and damaged or dead formed elements. So that is called as clot or coagulum. Now, how this mechanism of coagulation will be starting or initiating or will be activated? That is by two ways. How activated and initiated? That is how clot formation or coagulation is being initiated and activated. So, when you happen to get any wound or any injury, the definitely platelets will be start releasing. So these platelets will be releasing platelets will be releasing certain clotting factors. And these clotting factors will be actually activating the mechanism of coagulation. And also along with this, how exactly the coagulation mechanism is initiated? That is the tissues. I can say the damaged tissue during injury. So any injury will be causing for the damage of the tissue, and that damaged tissue will be initiating the whole mechanism of coagulation. So now let's see how exactly the coagulation will be happening. Okay, so injury or removal of blood from the vessels will be causing for primary steps in clotting. So injury or removal of the blood, that is what I said now. Damaged tissue during the injury. So injury or the removal of the blood from the vessel will be initiating the clotting, and that will be causing for certain mechanism. So I guess it's better to study from last. Let's see how this clot is being formed. So clot has been made up of fibrin threads and blood cells, that is the formed elements, and there is going to be some amount of plasma. So the main important material in this particular clot is fibrin. Okay, we call it as fibrin threads, the network of fibrin threads. So network of fibrin threads, but how this network of fibrin has been formed? That is with the help of fibrinogen. So in the blood, specifically in plasma, clotting factors and protein will be in inactive form. So normally this clotting factor or this clotting protein won't be active in plasma. Only when you get wound or injury, at that time it will be activated. Unless and until they will be in the inactive form. See, fibrinogen is an active protein that you get to see in plasma. You remember fibrinogen plasma protein. Now this fibrinogen will be converted into fibrin during clotting, during coagulation. But how? What makes this fibrinogen convert into fibrin? That is a protein called as thrombin. That's why thrombocytes is another name for platelets, right? I have told already. Now, but thrombin is not simply produced again. So they would be in their inactive form, that is prothrombin. So who converts prothrombin to thrombin? That is something called as thrombokinase. So thrombokinase will be converting prothrombin to thrombin, and that thrombin will be converting fibrinogen to fibrin, and fibrin threads along with the damaged cells, tissues will be making clot. Now, who makes this thrombokinase? For the making of thrombokinase, there is going to be a cascade of reaction happening. That is, multiple factors will be involved in production of thrombokinase. Okay, and these factors all would be released when the coagulation mechanism is activated and initiated, and that is happening by the platelets releasing clotting factor, certain type of clotting factor, and the damaged tissue during the injury, that is actually activating and initiating the entire coagulation process. So what is the essential element that is required during coagulation? That is calcium ions is essential for clotting or coagulation mechanism. Okay. So that is about clotting coagulation. Now, the next concept that we have is lymph. We know that we have got two types of body fluids. One is blood, another one is lymph. So now it's time to understand about lymph. So what is lymph? Usually red will be drawn in red color. Blood will be drawn in red color. Lymph would be drawn in something like green or definitely not red, but green or white. So let's write the standard definition of lymph. Define lymph. So lymph is nothing but colorless fluid containing specialized lymphocytes and has got no uh, larger proteins and formed elements. So basically, lymphs don't have any formed elements except lymphocytes. Also, they don't have any large proteins. So no large proteins, no formed elements. Okay, except lymphocytes, that is the WBCs, and they are colorless fluid. Okay, that is the standard definition of lymph. So I hope you have understood what is lymph. So what is lymph? Blood minus large proteins plus. So basically, if you take blood and if you remove the RBC, platelets and other formed elements except lymphocytes, and also if you remove some large proteins, then that is nothing but lymph. But how this fluid would have been produced? How this particular fluid would have got produced? So look at the image. You can make out here there are blood capillaries and something that is actually entering from the blood capillaries, right? You can see from blood capillaries we can see something entering. Like this, right? So by this we understand that how lymph is formed. So lymph has got another name called as tissue fluid, also called as lymph, also called as interstitial fluid. How this has been formed? That is blood when transported through capillaries. So when the blood is transporting, when the blood when transported through the capillaries, some water along with water soluble solutes will go out of capillaries and it goes in between the cells in tissues. Now, if you see these capillaries, where are these capillaries are distributed? They are actually distributed, if you see, in the tissue. So you can see some cells over here. Cell, this is a cell. This is a cell, 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 cell. Right? So these capillaries are distributed on the tissues actually. And this capillary should be connecting each and every cells. So now these, when the blood is transported through this capillary, some amount of fluid, which is actually water and water soluble components, now that will be going out of this capillaries and they will be getting into the spaces between the cells. And this fluid is called as interstitial fluid. Why do we call it as interstitial fluid? What is the meaning of inter? Between. So between interstitial, between the cells of the tissue, we get to see this type of fluid. That is why the name of this fluid is interstitial fluid. Now, they are also called as tissue fluid because after all, where is this fluid found? That is in the tissue. Between the cells, this fluid is present. And what is this? This is nothing but tissue, right? This is nothing but the tissue cells. So that is why another name for this fluid is tissue fluid. Now, why the name lymph? You know about lymphocytes, right? Lymphocytes are the one that is important for the immune system, immune response. Right. So one reason why it is called as lymph, because they have got the cells called as lymphocytes. That is why. Another reason, the name lymph, because now this fluid which is called as, I'm not going to write once again, this is the definition of this one, lymph or tissue fluid. So this fluid will be taken by specialized vessels called as lymphatic vessels, which will drain this fluid into major veins. So now this interstitial fluid will be collected by a special, vessels called as lymphatic vessels. This green color vessels you are able to see, no? This green color, this green color vessels. So now these green color vessels, now they will be taking this fluid. You can see some arrow marks over here. So these will be taking the tissue fluid and they will be transporting this fluid into the major veins. You can see the veins over here. So they will be transporting this into major veins. Fine. What is the function? Why all this drama? Why they have to do this? Because the function of this lymph, so let's say the function of this lymph is transportation of gases, nutrients, hormones. So by this we understand that their function is similar to plasma of the blood, because plasma also do the same thing. Plasma also have got nutrients. Plasma of the blood also have got hormones, and they too transport the gases like carbon dioxide and some amount of oxygen, right? So these lymph also have got very similar function that of the plasma, and these lymph will be taking the all these nutrients or gases or something from the tissue, that is from the cells, into the vein. Okay, so it is not just the blood capillaries that will be transporting. It is not just the blood vessels that is transporting nutrients, gases or something, but also the lymph will also transport nutrients, gases from the tissue. Okay, mainly the function is from the tissue. Okay, so in a simple manner to say, blood capillaries is involved in transportation of the nutrients, gases to the cells and tissues, whereas these lymph, their major function is transportation of the waste materials or maybe nutrients, gases, hormones from the tissue. Okay, but however capillaries are also involved in transportation of the they do both function. Capillaries are involved in giving nutrients, also removing the waste, but these lymphatic vessels function is removing the fluid or maybe hormones, nutrients from the tissue. Okay, so What you have to know about lymph is mainly their composition, what exactly they are made up of. Okay, so what exactly they are made up of? Colorless fluid, lymphocytes they have got, no large protein, and formed elements. And their different names: tissue fluid, lymph, interstitial fluid, different names. And what exactly they will be transporting? Gases, nutrients, hormones. Function is similar to plasma. That is, they will be transport the lymphatic vessel, which is actually having the lymph. Now that will be transported from the tissue to the major veins. Simple. Now, apart from this, we get to see the importance of lymph even in the digestive system. So, the fat that is present in the intestine, that is absorbed by the lymph in the lacteals in the intestine. I'll be adding this point over here. Fat in intestine, especially the small intestine. So fat in small intestine will be absorbed by lymph in the lacteals of small intestine. So basically, we know that when I'm drawing, if I draw you the intestinal villi have this projections, and they have got blood capillaries, right? So these blood capillaries are actually involved in absorption of the nutrients from the intestinal villi, because here we get to see, in intestine we get to see digested food, right? It has got amino acids, it has got what is that, fat, and what are the other things, sugar, glucose. So all of this would be present in the intestine, because the final digestion you get to see in intestine, small intestine, and the smallest unit of the food is present in the intestine. Now these blood capillaries will be reabsorbing glucose, amino acids, right? So along with the capillaries we get to see these lacteals. Now these lacteals will be specifically absorbing the fats. Okay, so the lacteals will be specifically absorbing fats in the small intestine. So that is about lymph. And we have the next part is circulatory pathways. So we have studied both the fluids which is circulating in the body. About lymph we have understood, blood in the last class we have understood, blood groups we have understood, Rh positive, Rh negative, and the special case we have studied. And then now it's the time to understand the circulatory pathway, because now we have to understand about the circulatory system, its body fluids and circulation. So circulatory system should be understood. But as usual, when we are studying, we should be starting with the easiest and the simple forms and the simple type. Right? When you had studied about animal kingdom, you first started with the Porifera, the simplest phylum. So over here also we will be seeing the simplest circulatory pathways first. So mainly there are two types of circulatory pathways. Okay, which are these two? One is open circulatory system. Another one is closed circulatory system. Now, what is the meaning of open? What is the meaning of open? If I do this, this is closed. This is open, right? Exactly. So, in open circulatory system, what we get to see is blood is pumped from the heart and it is transported through open spaces. And this open space has got a name, because we can't say that blood is moving openly. We can't say that, right? So there is a special name that we are giving called as sinuses. So what is sinus? Not this sinus. They say I have a sinus problem. No. Actually, that is also, there is a reason why that is also called as sinus, because sinus means actually an opening. Okay, it's open. So open spaces are called as sinuses. So in the open circulatory system, blood will be traveling from the heart, because after all, this heart is the one that is pumping the blood, and that blood, if it has to go to different part of the body, so it will be going through the open spaces called as sinuses. Okay, now in which organisms we get to see this unique type of circulation? That is arthropoda and mollusca. So in these two group mainly, and in other non-chordates, we get to see open circulatory system. So you would have heard that in arthropoda, the organs are bathed in the blood. So you would have heard that. They have got hemolymph, by the way, white blood and all. So that is about open circulatory system. And now coming to closed circulatory system. Closed circulatory system, what about this? Like how the blood is going to get transported over here? So over here, blood is pumped, blood which pumped from the heart, blood which pumped from the heart travels through closed blood vessels. So blood will be transported through the closed vessels. Okay, so if I show you how do we water the plants, that is with the help of pipes. So in a very similar way, blood is transported through the pipes, which is actually the closed vessels. Isn't pipe is closed? Can you see literally water moving from, in transparent, yeah, you can see that. But normally if you take a normal pipe, can you see water going from the water tank till your plant? No, because it's going in a closed, right? So what is good among these two type of circulatory system? Which is better? Definitely closed. So why this is advantageous? The reason being, the flow of blood is regulated. The flow of blood is regulated in closed circulatory system. That is why this is advantageous. Okay. Now coming to examples. So we have got examples, all the vertebrates and even annelida, annelids, they to show closed circulatory system, right? Fine. So next we have to study about different chambers of the heart in different organisms. Okay. Coming to the heart chambers. Heart chambers and circulation. So let's get started with the lowest vertebrates. That is in the case of fish. If you consider, fish has got how many chambers of heart? They have got 2 chambers of heart. Auricle, ventricle are the 2 chambers, 2 types of chambers that we have got. Even vertebrates, any other vertebrates have got. So fish have got one auricle, one ventricle. And what type of circulation we get to see cause of this? So we get to see single circulation. So they have got single circulation. Okay. So we will be understanding what happens during the single circulation. So that we will be understanding later. Now, the next type of chambers, if you consider, we get to see in amphibians, fish, amphibians, even in reptiles. But there is one exception, except crocodile. So over here we are able to see two auricles, one ventricle. So instead of four, it is like three chambered heart. And the circulation is incomplete circulation. Again, this is single circulation because one auricle, one way. I'll be explaining, however, in very detail. But now to simply understand, cause of just one ventricle and one auricle, the blood is circulating just one time. Over here, they don't have like all four, but they have three. So it's not complete double circulation, but incomplete double circulation. And then the last and most advanced group of vertebrates that we have is aves, crocodile, and mammals. So over here you get to see two auricles, two ventricles. So complete double circulation. Clear? Now, let's see what is single circulation. What happens in single circulation? So this we get to see in the case of fish, right? So in fish, deoxygenated blood will be oxygenated in gills. Deoxygenated blood gets oxygenated in gills. Even in the case of humans as well. Lungs is a place where the deoxygenated blood will be getting oxygenated, right? Because we inhale and all those oxygen rich air is actually present in lungs. So they don't have lungs, so they have got gills. So oxygenated blood will be getting deoxygenated blood will be getting oxygenated in gills in the case of fish. Now, this oxygenated blood will be going to different part of the heart. Oxygenated blood goes to different. So basically this oxygenated blood will be going to different part of the body, right? And in body they will be getting deoxygenated. You have studied in breathing and exchange of gas. Even in humans as well you get to see in different part of the body the oxygen will be used up and deoxygenated blood will be produced. So this deoxygenated blood will be coming back to the heart. Oxygenated blood gets to the different part of the body and deoxygenated. So in different part of the body, this deoxygenated blood would be produced, and this deoxygenated blood returns to heart. Okay. So that is in the case of single circulation. So how many times the blood went to heart? Just once, right? So deoxygenated blood which got oxygenated. So now that oxygen rich blood will be going to different part of the body, right? And then in the different part of the body, they will be getting deoxygenated and they will be coming back to the heart. So to make it more simpler, if I write DO, it is deoxygenated blood. So DOB will be going to gills. So in gills, they will be oxygenated blood. Now this OB will be going to the different part of the body and they becomes DOB, and that DOB will be returning to heart. So heart will be receiving blood only once. Okay, so that is why the circulation is single circulation. Just one time the heart will be receiving the blood. I mean the RBCs or that blood. So single circulation. Now from the heart, where exactly this deoxygenated blood should be going? To the gills. Gills to different part of the body and then to the heart, right? Now coming to the next type of circulation that we have is let me use this color only, that is incomplete double circulation. Now why this name incomplete double circulation, we will understand. So where do we get to see this? In amphibians and some reptiles which have got two auricles and one ventricle, right? So in these organisms, deoxygenated blood comes to right auricle. Oxygenated blood will be received by left auricle. Okay, so oxygen rich blood has come to the left part, deoxygenated blood has come to the right part. Okay, fine, but the mixing of the blood will be happening in ventricles, because papam they don't have two ventricles, they just have one ventricles, right? So mixing up of the blood will be happening in ventricles. So that is why we call this type of circulation as incomplete double circulation. Okay. So even if they oxygenate their deoxygenated blood in the lungs, gills or anywhere, that will be received, oxygen rich will be received to the left part of the auricle, I mean the left part of the heart, that is left auricle, and the deoxygenated rich blood will be received to the right part of the heart, that is right auricle. But however, mixing up of the blood will be happening in the ventricles. That is why this type of double circulation is called as incomplete, because of the mixing of the blood in the ventricles. And the last type that we have is complete double circulation. So in crocodile, aves and mammals, oxygen rich from the lungs, oxygenated blood will be going to the left auricle, and from here this blood will be going to the left ventricle. From left ventricle the blood will be, see, they have got all the four chambers, right? That is why left auricle to left ventricle. From left ventricle they will be going to the different body parts. So from different body parts they will be coming back to the heart second time to the right auricle followed by right ventricle. Remember, now this is deoxygenated blood. Okay, this is the oxygenated blood. So finally, from right ventricle, this DOB will be going back to the lungs. So from lungs only, oxygen rich blood has gone to the heart. So basically 2 times, if you can see over here, this is 1 time the blood has gone to the heart, and this is the 2nd time the blood has gone to the heart. So complete double circulation we are able to see, and there is no mixing up of blood. No mixing of blood in any chambers of the heart. That is why they are called as complete double circulation. Okay. So that is about different types of circulatory pathway and circulation that we are able to see in different vertebrates. Complete double circulation, because the to both these chambers, right auricle, right ventricle, left auricle, left ventricle, they all are well separated, and cause of this there is no mixing up of blood. Also blood will be going to the heart 2 times, and they are completing the 2 cycle without any mixing, and that is why it is called as complete double circulation. So here we have understood about all the 3 types of circulation, and it's time to discuss some of the questions. So as usual, I will be discussing the questions of NEET and AIIMS previous year question papers questions. The coagulum is formed of network of threads called as thrombins. No, that's called as fibrins, not thrombins. Spleen is the graveyard of erythrocytes. I haven't mentioned about this previously. Let me tell you. So, erythrocytes, after completing 120 days, they will be destroyed actually in spleen. However, in the liver and all, there are going to be certain type of a recycling. So spleen is called as graveyard of erythrocytes. Okay. So this is a right statement, because yes, spleen is called as graveyard of RBC, because the erythrocytes will be, the parts of the erythrocytes, different components will be separated and they are destroyed in spleen. So what is the right answer for this question? Statement 1 is wrong, 2 is correct. Where is it? Yeah. Statement 1 is incorrect, 2 is correct. So answer is A for this question. Next question, NEET 2021 question. Which enzyme is responsible for the conversion of inactive fibrinogen to fibrin? Fibrinogen to fibrin is being converted with the help of thrombin. That is why platelets are called as thrombocytes. So answer is thrombin. Okay. Next, which of the following conditions causes erythroblastosis fetalis? Erythroblastosis fetalis will be happening because of mother having negative blood group. Since she is not having antigen, Rh antigen, she will be having anti-Rh, that is antibody against Rh antigen. So, her antibodies will be attacking the antigen of the fetus. So, fetus is Rh positive, mother is Rh negative. Answer is B for this question. Next question, which one of the following animals has 2 separate circulatory pathway? So, they're not asking who is having 2 separate chambers in the heart. They're asking which animal is having 2 separate circulatory pathway, which means double circulation. So, in which organism you are able to see double circulation, that is 2 separate circulatory pathway? Now, by the way, which is having single circulatory pathway? Single circulatory pathway in fish. Okay, 2 separate circulatory pathway in mammals, aves and crocodiles. So what is the right answer for this question? Which are mammals over here? Whale is mammal, shark is fish, lizard is reptile, frog is amphibian. Okay, answer is C for this question. Next we have, which one of the following has an open circulatory system? We just know mollusk and what is that? Cockroach. That is arthropods. Arthropods and mollusca. right? I have answered by mistake. So, what is the right answer for this question? Periplaneta, because this is the scientific name of cockroaches. Ferritima is earthworm, which belongs to annelids. Hirudinaria is a leech, which belongs to annelids once again. Okay. Octopus, there is an exception. Yeah, by the way, here answer is B for this question, because Periplaneta, cockroach, has got open circulatory pathway. Okay. So please ignore this option. Next question. After examining the blood groups of husband and wife, the doctor advised them not to have more than one child. Okay, this is a serious issue. The blood group of the couple are likely to be not to have more than one child. This nobody will say, but they have given a question. AIMS 2016. Okay. So, I have told you when I was explaining erythroblastosis fetalis, you should also know what should be the husband's blood group if the fetus is having positive and mother is having negative. So, what is the answer? Husbands and wife blood group they are asking. So, husband, that is male, is having Rh positive and female should be having Rh negative. Only then only we are able to see fetus having positive Rh positive blood group. Okay. Array, what am I writing? Rh positive it should be. I have written positive Rh. Okay. So Rh positive and female Rh negative. This is the blood group. And by looking at this, doctor told not to have more children. Very funny question. Next question. What is diapetes? Diapedesis. AIMS 2009 question. You have nowhere in NCERT they have given about diapedesis. But however, if you want to know, let me explain you. Diapedesis is a type of movement that has been shown by WBCs. Okay, these WBCs, many of the WBCs, they have this amoeba-like character. That is, they are able to move with the help of their protoplasmic streaming. That is just like how in amoeba we get to see pseudopodia. Similarly, even in WBC, there is something very similar to pseudopodia. And that movement in the WBCs with the help of pseudopodia-like structure is called as protoplasmic streaming. So protoplasmic streaming in some of the WBCs is called as diapedesis. Okay. So migration of WBCs into the tissue spaces from the blood capillaries is called as diapedesis, because WBCs usually will be moving in the lymph from the capillaries to the tissue. No, that is why they have added here, but in general it is a movement of WBCs. Okay, diapedesis. Next question. The component of the blood which prevents its coagulation in the blood vessel is. So what component in the blood will be preventing the coagulation of the blood? So I have told in the previous class about it. I should have added this question in the previous class question. It should be heparin, which is an anticoagulant. Okay, so heparin is anticoagulant. It will be reducing the coagulation, which is being produced naturally by basophils mast cells. Next question. Oh, that's it. So here we are done with today's class. I hope you have understood, enjoyed as well. If you have got question, please do ask me in the Telegram group. Okay, so bye.